Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Ted Hulsey. I'm Vice President of Marketing at eFolder and your host for today's webinar event. Welcome to our eFolder Partner Chat Series. This webinar brings together leading eFolder partners for business-oriented discussions. Today's topic is ransomware and security, 2 keys for MSPs in 2017. Today we are joined by, you can see them there on the slide in front of you, left to right, David Jordan, Nick Espinosa, and Bob Jenner, 3 eFolder partners and contributors to a new book called Easy Prey. Because you're attending this webinar, I'll be sending you each a free copy of the book in Kindle format to thank you for attending today's session. Before we go through the agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar, along with the slides, will be made available to those who registered for the event. With over 270 people registered for today's session, we've put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it on your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Your questions are strongly encouraged throughout today's discussion. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end, but you may submit your questions as we go along, and we'll try to address them on the fly. Let's go through the agenda real quick. First, we will introduce our 3 guests in a little greater detail, and I'll ask them to each tell us a bit about their background and their MSP practices. Next, we'll take a look at the ransomware crisis and the opportunity it presents for managed service providers. Next, the good news is that clients can be safe if they act to protect themselves, and protection is 3 essential elements, and we'll explore those in detail with our panelists. We'll have the partners comment on each and how security segues to the topic of most managed service offerings. Then we'll have partners comment on how they meet the needs of their clients around security and business continuity, and then I'll present a very brief overview at the end of eFolder's essential contributions to meeting those needs. Finally, I'll be open for questions throughout, and I'll be moderating the discussion and monitoring the Q&A log. So please, we've got 3 experts who are taking an hour of their day today to share their insights, and so please ask your questions. Okay, let's go and introduce our panelists one by one. So David Jordan is the founder of Pacific Computer Consultants. They are out here in California, I believe, out in the East Bay of Northern California. David, welcome to today's discussion. David, do I have you?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great. Welcome. And then in the middle, one of the other authors of Easy Prey is the Chief Security Fanatic at BSSI 2, Nick Espinosa. Nick, welcome to today's discussion.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Okay, and then Bob Jenner is the CEO and founder of the Network Doctor and has been running an IT services and managed services practice for over 31 years. And he's seen it all. So nothing gets past these guys. Bob, welcome to today's discussion.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Okay. So, we are thrilled to have 3 eFolder partners who are also doing an amazing thing, in our view, on the marketing and kind of thought leadership front, which is publishing a book. Can you guys talk a little bit about the genesis of this project and how it unfolded and just tell us a little bit more, just any one of you tell us a little bit about how this project got started.
Sure. I can start, I guess. Nick here. So the 3 of us belong to the Robbins marketing team. We basically pay them for our marketing and whatnot, and I believe, from what I understand, they were approached by Technology Press looking for authors that revolve around the world of cybersecurity, and so a lot of authors are from the Robbins world, and some of them are, from what I understand, outside of that. And then, we were approached, or at least I was approached and asked to do this, and then from there we figured out who was going to be writing what, and off we went, writing a book.
And each of you guys contributed a chapter, and then there's a handful of other chapters that other MSP business owners and experts have contributed chapters as well.
Correct.
Okay, and then just tell us a little bit about kind of the overall strategy here. I mean, why publish a book? I mean, why is this going to make a difference for your own businesses or in your own marketing efforts?
Well, in my estimation, and I don't mean to be keep jumping in here. For me, one, it's good to get my thoughts out and share them with everybody else, because I think most people in the IT world are service people. They want to help other people and share knowledge freely. At least that's been my experience with most IT people, including myself. And also, I think it lends a sense of credibility to what I'm saying, that somebody is willing to take my words and publish it along with other experts. It lends an air of authenticity to, I think, what I'm trying to deliver to my clients.
Okay. And are you practically speaking, I mean, are you giving copies of the book to your existing clients? Are you using it as a marketing giveaway? Any sort of tactics like that?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So am I. It's when you can go into a prospect that you've been trying to get, and you can put a book down on their desk and say, hey, look, in addition to being the kind of person I am, I'm also a published author, and this is a book that we've written on a subject that we're talking to you about. This lends, as Nick stated, it's a huge credibility booster to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think I mean, in my view, I love, Robin Robbins always talks about joint ventures. And I think, joint ventures can come in many shapes and sizes. And this is another great example of where, you don't have to boil the ocean. You don't have to write all the chapters. You can be the contributor on something you're really passionate about, one specific topic. It's bite-sized, but you're teaming up with other, like-minded professionals to produce a really excellent piece of content. So, I mean, I think that's one of the great things that she always advocates to her clients, and this is a great example of it. Let's talk. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just was saying I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the different chapters you guys each worked on, and kind of the key thesis or insights you look to deliver. So David, why don't we start with you on the left there, Chapter 7, Secure Backups, the Key to Mitigating a Cyber Attack. So talk to us about what you were trying to get accomplished with your chapter.
Well, I mean, we were all asked to pick a topic, right, and I think 2 or 3 topics, and then they kind of assign you a topic. Backup is something I've been involved with and doing for a long time. My chapter specifically talks about it's a very basic kind of cut down approach to what the different styles of backups are, kind of the pros and cons quickly of which backups, what we recommend and why, and then specifically how that helps mitigate, cyber attacks that you might have, be it ransomware or other. And the reason I kind of delved into that the way that I did in the book is kind of some of the same things that Nick and Bob were saying earlier. Yeah, it's a marketing piece. It lends credence to your expertise. It's awesome. We use it in our shock and awe package that goes out to potential clients. For those of you who are Robin's people, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who aren't, it's basically a box full of stuff that you send as a pre-appointment kind of setter to help add some credibility and expertise around what it is that you're going to be talking about at the sales meeting. But specifically around ransomware, it talks about the ability to use backup solutions and to help you roll back or recover from ransomware, right? It's one piece in a kind of a stack of security approaches. Backups alone won't help you prevent and recover from ransomware, but in combination with a bunch of other security layers, it certainly will.
Now, I think, this is a topic I struggle with a lot. I mean, have you gotten any feedback from prospects or clients who have actually read the beginning, read your chapter, and said, you know what, I learned a ton, or are you giving you any feedback? Has that happened yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So part of the marketing and background tasks, we were supposed to get some feedback on the chapters from either current clients or people who we thought would be good people to review. So I set my chapter before it was published to, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 of my clients that I thought I would value their input. And the first question off the bat was, hey, I hope we have this already in place. And I said, yep, that's that box that we've got in your server room that does that. And they said, well, we thought we did it. We just wanted to double check. And then they said, yeah. They said, wow, this is a scary book and a scary chapter. It was a pretty pervasive reply that I got from a lot of people. And of course, we deal a lot in legal, so I got a lot of the redlining from lawyers, right? So there's always that. It's like, hey, you should phrase this a little bit differently, and you know, maybe approach this, and I got some very good constructive feedback. So next time, if I do it again, I'll send that to those set of people a little bit earlier in the process, because some of their input was very valuable. Other than everybody I talked to seemed to have gotten a lot of not only my chapter, but some of the other chapters in the book specifically, and commenting from some of my longtime advisors that are clients, like my lawyer, my CPA specifically. They thought it was a great way to get that information out, because most small businesses don't think about this, or if they do, it's a very cursory level and not really with any depth or any teeth, because they don't want to take the time to go learn the vernacular and the and whatnot that applies to their business. So that book does a really good job in most places of applying expertise to an area where most people lack.
And I just to kind of echo a couple of those comments, but making it accessible, I think is part of part of the challenge, I think, always with technical topics and dealing with clients. Whether we're trying to educate them at the front of the sales cycle or even educate them after they're already a client. And so, I think that's something we all need to keep in mind. I think the metaphor, look, most people who are going to consume this book are probably going to consume it in a digital format on the Kindle app in some way. But the metaphor of a book is kind of very, it takes things to another level in terms of legitimacy. And if the book is well crafted, of course, it also makes it bite-sized and navigable and makes it accessible for clients. So I think you guys definitely have accomplished that. But I think another comment you made that I want to kind of double-click on a little bit is just the need to continue and educate existing clients in the MSP space. You said you sent you sent the chapter to a couple of your clients, and they're like, "Wow, I hope I have this level of protection you're describing there." And of course, the answer is of course. If they're a fully managed client. But I think that's something a lot of MSPs need to keep in mind. And I talk to a lot of partners about like the need for kind of QBRs and technology reviews and having appropriate levels of account management in their own business for your installed base, because there's a ton of ongoing education that needs to go on even with your installed base. So I think that's a really good reminder. I think most of the folks who are joining us on today's call were thinking, wow, I've got to beef up my new client acquisition game. But I think the point you're making, David, that this book is highly relevant just for your existing accounts as well.
Yeah, it is, and we have a lot of long-term clients that we've had for 5, 10, 12, 15 years, and a lot of times they will forget what they buy unless you talk to them about it on a regular basis.
And what do you do in your business other than initiatives like this book? What do you do? What's your methodology for keeping clients educated about what they have, what value they're getting?
Well, we meet with everybody at least once a year. It depends on the client size and kind of their underlying need. But we go through a technology business review. I don't call it a QBR, but I just put a little different spin on it. We use a couple tools. I proactively have one of my senior network guys look at each one of our client networks quarterly to make sure that they're aligned with our best practices. So our TBR instead of a QBR is more of a kind of a review of where we were, what needs to be looked at, what things should be budgeted for, and then recently we've started to use a new product that adds some infographic capabilities to that discussion to take it out of the weeds, because it can get technical quick, and we try to avoid that and really keep it on a consumable level for them.
Is that a tool that's available to other MSPs or something proprietary you've developed?
Well, so that infographic tool you mean, or?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, it's with, I didn't know how you felt about mentioning other companies, but it's a product called Audit, AUD and an IT. It's a they, I think, pitch it as a sales presentation tool, which we use it for that as well. But I found really good luck and very good response from using it internally on those periodic meetings we have with clients.
Okay, well, fantastic. Hopefully that's helpful for some of the viewers today who have joined us as well, some ideas on how to drive value and conduct those technology business reviews with clients. Let's move on to learning a little bit more about Chapter 15. Nick, tell us about what you were trying to accomplish with that chapter.
Well, when I picked this chapter, I wanted to do the most interesting chapter in the entire book, because honestly, who doesn't love reading about government compliance, right? Am I right? So I tried to make it as fun as I could, because it can get pretty heady stuff. But my background is very heavily into government compliance: PCI, HIPAA, SOX, SEC, ITAR for international arms trafficking, and a few others. And I think that many companies, even those that don't fall under government compliance, can learn quite a bit in terms of how to create a solid defensive posture for their network with process, procedure, technology, and education. And that's what I try to speak to in the chapter. Basically, what are the steps that you need to take to, overall start moving yourself towards that better posture that makes you government compliant, and then specific to each of those three, PCI, HIPAA, and SOX, what are some very specific steps? Because while many of them have similar attributes, many of them are looking for very specific things. And that's kind of the gist of what I was going for.
Okay. And have any of your clients given you any feedback on the book or the chapter, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's overwhelmingly been positive. I don't so much get the are we set up this way only because my government compliance, clients obviously are set up that way by virtue of being in government compliance. So, but yeah, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And one of the things that I hear quite a bit is it's not just my chapter; it's almost every chapter in the book. People, oh my God, there's stuff about mobility, there's stuff about backups, there's stuff about training and education, which Bob will speak to. I mean, it's a multifaceted book because cybersecurity is a multifaceted industry. So it's really nice to see all of these different avenues and aspects of what we do come into one place. It's been a real tool, not just above and beyond selling myself, but purely in terms of education.
And what's your take? I mean, you guys picked, I don't know who was whose brainchild it was, but you guys picked a fairly provocative title,
Right.
Easy Prey. What's your take? What's your take? I mean, what is the state of affairs? Are things getting better in the SMB market, or, are we kind of in a state of crisis and we're just knowing that we need to start moving in the right direction?
Well, one of the things that I do is counsel IT staff in how to create a cybersecurity posture, and one of the things that I tell them is that IT should have a warlike mentality 24 hours a day. You have to assume that in some way, shape, or form you're going to be under attack. And when you're looking at the small to mid-sized market, the majority of cybersecurity breaches and attacks, whether it's ransomware, spyware, just full-on incorrect configuration of security, so somebody's getting in, something like 60 to 70% of all of these attacks are happening at the small to mid-sized level. So you can't really say that it's getting better in any way other than the fact that corporations are now starting to realize that they have a problem, that it needs addressing above and beyond just installing the standard equipment. And so most companies that we're walking into, sure, they want to know what servers we'll install or how we can manage their computers and all that, but they also want to know how they're being properly defended. And it is getting worse. Variants of ransomware are rising. We've seen the rise of denial of service attacks. We have a huge looming threat that I'm sure we were talking about earlier before the webinar, with IoT devices coming online, and with 34 billion coming on around 2020, a lot of these IoT devices are not really created with a defensive posture in mind. We've got developers that are getting these to market as quickly as they can, not worrying about the cybersecurity side. And so now we're starting to see things like the Mirai virus that is infecting IoT devices and then using them for DDoS attacks. So there's a couple of different looming threats out there, and of course a small business that's on a budget or not necessarily going to be spending like a Fortune 100 corporation will on mitigating threats. Things like this are very much on the front of their mind.
And you mentioned the humans and the incorrect configurations and the mistakes that can be made by rank and file frontline employees. I think that's a pretty good segue. I think, Bob, tell us a little bit about the Smarter Employee chapter in the book.
Well, as both Nick and Dave have said, it's we selected a couple of different options for chapters, and we were assigned one of those. And this is the Smarter Employees chapter is the one that I was assigned. And I do think that employee education is a critical piece that is quite often overlooked in the cybersecurity threat monitoring scenario. I mean, your employees are your front line. They're the people who are interacting with those client emails all day long, and so on and so forth. And if you don't advise them as to what the proper methodology is to treat emails that have links in them, and lets them know, hey, how do I look at this link and see if it's actually going where it says it's going? Even something as simple as that, people they don't know about. They say, oh, it's a link, it comes from a friend of mine, I'm going to click on it, and that's not a good idea.
And what are some of the tools or resources you've directed clients to in the book, or what are you doing in your own practice to increase employee education around security?
Part of what we're doing to increase employee education is to utilize a service that does what is essentially a phishing email type or spear phishing email type attack that is driven to the company specifically for the education of those employees, so that if an employee actually clicks on that link, they're actually directed to an educational site that explains to them why they shouldn't have clicked on that link, what they should do. And that's in a partnership with a company called KnowBefore, which I'm sure people know of. And that has been very well received and very helpful. But the biggest thing really is just sitting down with employees and explaining to them the right way to interact with the systems that they use on a daily basis. It's different, of course, for every company. But how many times have we seen? I certainly know that my clients have. How many times have you seen an email that's a spear-phished email going to a company, coming from a vendor that they actually use, coming from the CEO of the company, directed to the accounting department of the company, asking for a wire transfer to a vendor that they actually use? The only thing that's different is the account numbers and such. I mean, those things are real, and they happen a lot. So I mean, just educating people about what they need to do about those things.
The sophistication of the spear phishing attacks today are really astounding. I mean, if you look at, like you said, these kind of social engineering attacks, which are really exploiting people's relationships, and kind of a deep study of the vendor relationships the target may have to really dupe people, but also just the level of professionalism with phishing emails today. It looks like a bona fide FedEx or UPS or Amazon, whatever email. It's pretty darn sophisticated. Now, you mentioned sitting down with clients. I think what I'm pretty astounded by, and I'd like to get your point of view on this, is there's a lot of good services coming up, like KnowBefore, and then I'm blanking on the name of Zach Schuler's new company, which has a kind of a similar mission. There's a lot of these services that are trying to take security education and turn it into almost like a routine consumable that the workforce has. But I'm also quite shocked about how little education a lot of MSPs do with their clients.
I would certainly agree with that.
I mean, why is that the case, and why do people have such a hard time either monetizing that or getting clients to buy it or finding a way to fund it through an all-in managed services agreement?
Well, you have to also remember public speaking is a fear of a lot of people. They find it very difficult to get up in front of a crowd and talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just even getting together, you know, employees in small groups and talking to them, just one-on-one conversation about things is a big differentiator in the marketplace. I mean, how many of the customers that are on this call, how many of their clients would go out and if they found a Microsoft USB key sitting in the parking lot, would pick that up and take it inside and plug it into their computer and see what was on it?
Too many. Yeah.
Yeah, way too many.
Right. Yeah. So I think, I think that's a really good point, and I think everyone's just got to keep that in mind. I think it's kind of like goes to the sales conversation too, that, you know, MSP businesses are run by very technical folks, and sometimes the skill set, you know, sometimes there's a big disconnect between the skill set that's required to properly configure a BDR system or a server, you know, the server or the Active Directory or the domain. There's a big difference between that and then training the frontline salespeople at a real estate agency or the agents at a real estate agency on actually how to use their computers. It's a really different skill set, and I think MSPs need to keep that in mind in terms of when you're thinking about the kind of staff you need on hand to actually complete the whole mission, because you can deploy all the best technology in the world, but if the users are not well trained and don't really understand what they're doing, they're going to be the weak link in the chain. So
that's true. And I would say if the MSP doesn't have that expertise internally, then outsource it. Hire a training company. It will, you know, it's a complete differentiator from other people in the MSP market.
That's right, and think that, and if you have to outsource something, then it's going to have a cost, and if it's going to have a cost, then you need to think about the economics and how to bake that into your overall offering. And that's something you need to think about before you've quoted the client and signed the deal, not after. Then it's just
Right.
extra cost. So, okay, well, good. I mean, so this is really good. I think this is a taste for everybody on today's discussion, our viewers, on what you're going to get out of the book, and also some really, really good advice on some of the things you need to be thinking about in terms of how you're running your business and growing it. I just want to remind everybody, if you have questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A log. Manning just has a very tactical question back for David. Can you repeat the name of the software or tool you use to help give some visual pop and clarity to your TBR process? Can you name that vendor again?
Yeah, their website is auditforit.com. So they've been around. I don't know if they were at IT Nation this year because I was not able to attend, but they've been at several Robin's events, some other events, as I understand. They're an MSP that also has this developed on the side. It's just a graphical way to put together at a very easy, high level with colors and infographics for people to understand more technical concepts. And this is talking to business people, not meant to entertain or educate technical people.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Auditforit.com. All right. Perfect. Yep. Okay, so I just want to highlight a couple statistics here in the next couple slides, and then we're going to get back into some more deep dives with our panelists. But what I want to encourage everybody is, and this kind of goes back to, I think, the conversation we were having with David a little bit, just about the need for ongoing education. There's a massive opportunity for you as an MSP business owner and thought leader in your local market to really be the expert out there in the business community to talk about a lot of these trends. I mean, I think our buddies over at Cisco Umbrella, Dima Kumitz, has given some great presentations on how to become a thought leader in your local market using security. But I just want to encourage you, just think about it as like a mission just to educate people, and you will become a magnet for new business in your local market. If you find venues like chamber events, local, maybe vertical specific events, putting on your own lunch and learn series, doing events at your office that are educational in nature with your clients, and just educate people on all these challenges that are out there and bring data to the table. And eFolder, what we try to do with our partner playbooks and a lot of our white label marketing materials is to give you the fodder to go out and tell this story. So you all know that the ransomware problem is massive, but when you are actually able to put together some slides with some screenshots from the web, with legitimate, third-party news stories, it's pretty compelling. And right now, I mean, I think you could build an entire 2017 marketing campaign, in my opinion, just educating people on the ransomware threat. Just making sure that business owners, people who care about the profitability, the uptime, the resiliency, and the security of their business, are educated on these things. So the ransomware problem has become massive. It continues to morph and mutate. As we've talked about, the small business market is easy prey for all the different reasons we've talked about. It's costly. The amount of downtime, I mean, just the amount, just a typical business generating just a couple $1 million with 10, 20, or 30 employees. If a critical piece of infrastructure, like their servers, their line of business applications, their phone systems, their network connectivity, if any of that goes down, just 1, 2, or 3 hours of downtime costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And the reality is that's always far more than a lot of the technology and business continuity services we can put in place to help clients mitigate those challenges. And of course, the ransomware market is evolving always. I mean, it's astounding. It's astounding, and it's a full-time job just to keep on top of a lot of this. But there's a ton of really innovation, criminal innovation in the market in terms of the way cybercrime has become almost organized crime, and it's become a big business. And there's a whole area of the dark web, as they call it, where a lot of this technology to exploit clients is available and for sale. And I want to encourage you, we're providing copies of these slides. Reuse them. Reuse everything you see in the eFolder partner playbooks. Go ahead and, here are the links to some of these stories that you can then use in blogs, in PowerPoint presentations, and discussions. So go ahead and use all that. And just know, really, that I mean, I think one of the key messages we wanted to try to get across today is we don't believe in really selling backup and disaster recovery or selling, file sync as such. It's really about selling peace of mind to your clients. It's about educating them on the risks to their data privacy, their data security, their data protection, and their uptime, and giving them the peace of mind that by turning over their IT operations to you as a managed service provider, you're going to be able to help them avoid or mitigate any of these challenges that come down the pike. But what I want to do is in the next couple seconds here is just, I want to just dig in a little bit on each one of our panelists today. We've talked a little bit about this, but I'm going to ask each of the panelists just to dig in a little bit deeper in terms of kind of what is the, what's one of your key, what's one of your key vendors to help in each one of these areas. And like first up, I think Nick, talk to us a little bit about your favorite vendor, say in the security space, and why, and what do you do there, and why is that such a critical part of your solution stack?
All right, happy to do so. So there is a trend in cybersecurity for the last, I would say, maybe 5 years, probably a little less, that is moving the defensive posture more and more to the infrastructure and less towards the endpoint. And in that vein, having good infrastructure defense based on what's called the zero trust model that's developed by Forrester, which I can dive into if you wish. It basically means it's having solid IPS intrusion prevention, unified threat management, antivirus, any type of vulnerability defense, URL filtering, all of this sitting at the infrastructure level. The infrastructure tends to be able to update itself and inoculate itself much faster and in real time with sandboxing either on-premise or virtual, and it tends to be able to identify and stop threats before they're actually able to enter into the perimeter of the network. So for my choice, I choose Palo Alto Networks. I absolutely love their platform. They are heavily defendable in terms of what they detect. They are currently, their sandboxing worldwide for outbreak inoculation is on average right now 6 minutes, which is absolutely insane. So if there's an outbreak in Mongolia, for example, on average within 6 minutes, my Palo Alto here in Chicago is getting inoculated against that threat, and nobody's doing it as fast or as effectively as them. And virtually 50% of the articles that you're going to read on this new ransomware has been discovered by X team, it's usually Palo Alto's wildfire team, or it's another company that's backed on the wildfire detection system because they license it. So Proofpoint, for example, which is a really good spam filter. So in that sense, I absolutely love Palo Alto Networks for this. They have a sterling reputation. They have been the Gartner Magic Quadrant leader for like 6 or 7 years straight. Nobody usually comes close to them with the exception of Checkpoint, but that's more software. But from the appliance standpoint, Palo Alto is absolutely where it's at right now in cybersecurity.
I think I'm a former SonicWall employee. I worked there for 6 years before my eFolder tenure. Palo Alto sounds pretty platinum and gold-plated to me. I mean, how do you justify, what's a typical deployment look like, and what's it cost, and how do you convince the clients that that level of investment is required?
Well, so I love you, Ted, but honestly, SonicWall, not too good.
I'm a former SonicWall employee.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, yeah. So I'm not going to lie, Palo Altos are expensive. If I'm looking at, let's say, getting a comparable SonicWall or CyberRoam or take your pick, I'm probably paying $2,000 to $3,000 for the unit plus licensing, where I'm selling a comparable Palo Alto for roughly $10,000 a firewall to the client. We have sold more Palo Alto in the last year than we have CyberRoam in the last 3, if that gives you any indication of the need. And I think a lot of businesses, a lot of IT businesses, when they're looking at the small and mid-sized market, think, okay, I know that these things work. I'm getting good deals on them because I'm getting vendor hookups through conferences I go to or whatever. But there is a group, and I'm not saying every small or medium business would do this, but there is a group of them that understand and recognize that they have a real need to properly defend and protect themselves in this market. And those are the clients that we speak to. I'm actually not a fan of offering a client a mid or low range solution. I don't want to go in there and say, okay, you can buy the Ferrari, but you can get away with the Ford. No, it's the Ferrari every time. And overall, those are the clients that stay the longest. Those are the clients that have had Palo Altos running for 1 to 2 years, and we get 0 calls for infections, not even pop-ups. The technology works, and they pay for it, and they recognize the value in the investment. And so I swing for the fences every single time I walk into a customer, specifically selling them this as the beginning of the platform for their defensive solution.
Great. Okay, well, good. So that's great, great insight, and I think a good bar conversation. Whether I think I want to unleash a full-blown debate on whether most clients can afford a $10,000 firewall, because I think it's a really good debate. But we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's keep moving here. But Bob, tell us a little bit more about how long you've been using the Know Before service, and how does that work? How have you rolled that out to your clients? Do you roll it out to all of your clients? Tell us a bit more about that.
Know Before is something that we've started fairly recently, actually, and we only have it at a handful of our largest customers at the present time. We will be rolling it out as simply a part of the service that we offer to all of our clients during the course of the year. I think it's that valuable, so that is something that we will definitely be doing. I actually just sent them an email on that.
What are the reactions thus far, though? I mean, in terms of the decision makers, you know, the enthusiasm around what's happening at the kind of the frontline level with staff.
They love it because they get real-time feedback on whom maybe they need to sit with a little bit more and talk to a little bit more about these things, because they're consistently opening things that they shouldn't be opening. So it actually has it has visibility to the company management as well as to us.
Gotcha. So there's an ongoing kind of something that's underscoring the value by highlighting the employees that really need a little bit of extra education and reminders. How frequently does the No Before service kind of prompt and engage with the staff?
That is entirely up to the customer. The customer can set the specifics on exactly whom things go to and when they're done. It's very granular that way.
Okay. Okay. Well, great. And then let's kind of change gears. And David, talk to us about you know, what you're doing in the backup and disaster recovery arena, because that's really one of the last lines of defense if things don't go well with mitigating and stopping the ransomware at these different layers of the network.
Yeah, we use data. No, just kidding. Totally kidding. We're all eFolder. One of the things that we do for a lot of our things that we supply to clients, we standardize on products, and we standardized on Repl quite some time ago. And prior to that, we were using eFolders Shadow Protect solution. So we use your guys' Repl product, your guys' cloud back into the Repl product for system, you know, image level or block level style backup, and then on the individual PCs. Depends by client. Some clients see the value, some clients don't. All of our medical clients, we bundle it in. They don't get a choice. We have a PC-based backup that backs up to the cloud. So we've got a couple layers as far as backup goes. But everybody gets the same one. We don't have, you know, Repl here and, you know, another vendor's product there, or backup exec over here. Some people on tape stuff. No, everybody's on that we have that has servers on-prem are on Repl.
Okay. And talk to us a little bit about, you know, what were some of the key capabilities of Repl that attracted you to that as a solution?
Well, we had used other backup products similar to what Repl was doing at the time that were a little bit more costly. You know, honestly, I like that you can put it on your own platform, and we always went out with heavy-duty platform and not any of the minimums that they had published, because I know people were going to get in trouble with that, and sure enough, I think some people didn't heed the advice to use beefier backups, especially when you consider virtualization as a possible requirement there. So there's that. There is the ability to have you guys have the back end. I didn't have to build the back end, right? So before you guys owned Repl, we used them, but we went to you guys for the back end because you have the cloud and off-premise, you know, vaulting capability to handle the vaulting data. So that was a huge attraction. I didn't have to run that. And then it has other facets, like it does, you know, boot checks through a VM and whatnot, and integration and to ConnectWise that help us, you know, kind of put it all into one sort of pane of glass, so to speak, to make sure everything's working correctly.
Right, and I just want to kind of highlight a couple things you said there, just so it's clear for the audience. But I mean, when we talk about Repl, we really are talking about it as a business continuity platform, and we call it a platform because we give the great variety of MSPs out there a lot of flexibility in terms of how they deploy it. So as you mentioned, you know, one of the choices MSPs have when they're working with eFolder on the Repl product is you can decide to vault to yourself, or you can vault to the eFolder cloud. So again, we give partners that choice because some may want to run their own infrastructure and colo, and you know, it's more affordable, of course, to license the software from us on that basis because the cloud component's not included, and you may want to build it yourself and boost your margins. On the other hand, you may want to send it all to us like you guys have decided to do. But you've also mentioned building your own BDR appliances. So Replibit does require a local appliance of some kind. And as you mentioned, you've always liked the fact that Replibit, you could build your own BDR appliances yourself. And because it's built on Linux, you can run it on Linux. You can put it on virtually any kind of BDR appliance. So it's really a flexible solution in that way. So what I want to do is I want to remind everybody that we've got our panelists here. So just want to make a couple concluding remarks and then go into pure Q&A mode for the audience. I think the important thing to realize, and this is actually a piece of research done by KnowBe4, and the crazy part about the ransomware issue today is that a lot of clients who maybe might not have an MSP or might have kind of a dysfunctional relationship with an outside service provider, they don't really view their backup and disaster recovery posture as kind of a rock-solid last line of defense in the solution. And this says is only 40% if they had a ransomware infection, if they suffer a crypto locker, full infection of a critical piece of infrastructure, only 40% would confidently rely on their backups as a way to recover. And this is why we see such a high number of end users actually paying the ransoms. This is the crazy part. So I think the important point here is, eFolder as a company, we are a backup and disaster recovery, business continuity, and business-grade file sync company. And but the reality is really the best way to sell managed services today is to really go out there and educate, be a security expert. I think that was kind of the main thesis of today's webinar, and what you've seen from our panelists in terms of how they're running their businesses, how they're producing interesting educational content for their clients, how they're really investing in expertise. You can't go out and be a security expert and then not deploy the best firewalls, have the best backup disaster recovery, have excellent training in the business. You actually have to deliver on what you're promising out there. But I think the key point that we're trying to drive home for partners and people thinking about doing business with eFolder is leading with security education is the best way to position the MSP value proposition on a global basis. And it's a very good way to highlight why really robust and complete solutions that include the best firewalls, that include complete BDR, that include business-grade file sync, really are necessary for clients. So what I just want to do real quick is just kind of highlight the eFolder portfolio and then just turn this back over to our viewers today to ask any final questions of our panelists. But really, when we think about the ransomware threat, how it's really a gold mine in terms of marketing opportunity for partners, and then just highlight the eFolder stack. If you're maybe new to eFolder or you don't really know about our complete solution portfolio, we only work with MSPs. We're only channel focused. We have a worldwide network of 3,000 MSPs that are doing business with us today on a monthly recurring basis. And our key products really all answer the ransomware threat. Anchor is a business-grade file sync and collaboration solution, but it has a really robust ransomware defense and really business continuity feature set. If a machine is ever infected with CryptoLocker, Anchor has our snapshot feature and our revision rollback features allow you to really rapidly recover and restore the client's synced data in a really rapid fashion if heaven forbid you ever are infected with a ransomware attack. David talked a lot about our Replibit solution. It's a end-to-end business continuity solution built for MSPs from the ground up. It includes the software, cloud, appliance, and global management capabilities. that you need to do an end-to-end business continuity solution, and it's flexible. And we let MSPs, select certain parts of the solution and maybe do it yourself. We're also a big partner with Veeam, and we supply a cloud backup and recovery service that marries up to Veeam deployments, which is great for those larger clients that maybe have a completely virtualized environment, and you may be using Veeam as your image-based backup solution. And then, of course, eFolder's oldest product, which is eFolder Backup for Files. eFolder Backup was our first product. It's still one of our biggest products in terms of recurring revenue, and it's a file-level backup solution that has some really sophisticated scheduling and reporting capabilities, integration with PSA solutions, and the ability to do open file backup. So that's really this whole stack. All of these solutions can help in some way mitigate the ransomware threat, make sure that the uptime, productivity, and security of your client data is assured. So with that, let's just go. We just have a couple more minutes. And I just want to go to our Q&A log. Just a really practical question. We're going to give everybody who attended today a copy, the Kindle version of the Easy Pray book. And if you want additional copies, you do need to buy them yourself. And we do recommend you buy extra copies for your staff. And we do recommend, use it as an educational tool. Buy hard copy versions and put it in your own shock and awe box. I mean, it's great if you're one of the authors, but it's also very educational. It can be a tool in various other ways. So tell me this. I mean, just an open question for the panelists. What other, so we talked, I think, David, you mentioned your shock and awe box, or maybe Nick. What are some other ways you guys are going out and doing security education with your clients?
Well, for me, I give speeches and presentations all the time. I'm constantly booking speeches and doing all that kind of stuff, and I like to basically shock and awe the audience with a couple of different demonstrations of just how easy it is for me to break into things, and that seems to go over very, very well. So that's probably the most effective thing that I do, and we do the marketing and all that as well, but the speeches really hit home.
So give us some practical examples. What are the venues? How do you build the relationships? Do you have to pay to get on the stage? Are you invited as an expert? Do you get leads out of it, or is it more just about building your brand and your thought leadership? Answer a couple of those questions.
Well, I gave one speech to a local chapter of a CPA society, and that led to several more chapters as well as their state conference. And then I was asked to do the big conference for FEI in Chicago, which went over very well, and it looks like I'm going to be doing their national conference as well. And it continues to snowball in that sense. I've never had to pay to get onto a stage. Everybody has, invited me, and I've, got several invites going. It just, you can practice, speaking, and just with, I think, a little bit of charisma and knowledge, you can go a fairly long way.
Okay, and then, so that's, and that was Nick, right?
Yes.
That was Nick talking, right? Okay, and so that's great. I think I love the concept of snowballing it, and I love the concept of being a go-giver. There's a great book out there, if you haven't read it, called The Go-Giver, and the central premise is if you're consistently giving, you're going to get far more in return. And I think, that's a huge insight. If you want to build your brand and be an expert, you've got to be out there giving freely and educating people and being kind of an evangelist around it, and you will be rewarded with the recognition and that snowball effect of being invited to the next event and the next event and the larger venue and the larger stage. So that's clearly something you're doing, which is excellent. How did you pick CPAs? Is that a vertical that you focus on as a firm?
Yeah, we have a lot of CPA clients, including some big CPA firms in Chicago. Just by happenstance, my business partner also happens to be a CPA, although I don't think he really practices it except in our business. And so he said, "Why don't you come and speak to one of these?" And I did, and it kind of snowballed. And I've had other invitations from other organizations, like a conference in LA last year, and a few others, and so I do interviews and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I'm always pounding the pavement for this. You put me in front of people, and I'm always always giving.
Well, but I think it does also highlight another consistent theme we're always reminding people of is build a vertical focus, because if you build a vertical focus, it allows you to get deeper levels of expertise into some of the business challenges that those industries face, and it gives you a definable target. I mean, in terms of your marketing efforts, you know, it's the snowball effect we saw here only worked because you were saying something that was highly relevant to CPAs repeatedly, and people consistently wanted to get you on stage at a bigger and bigger venue because you were truly educating and relevant for that audience, and that requires that kind of vertical focus.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we have clients from many different facets, but we definitely have our focuses. And from the cybersecurity side, at least for me, I come from consulting in a Fortune 100 background, so I'm always trying to get in front of decision makers no matter where I go. But I agree, having that focus or hyper focus in, you know, one vertical specifically, or maybe a few that you really know, is an excellent idea. Go to their trade shows, not even if you're speaking, just to learn the lingo, just to understand what their needs or concerns are. You know, cybersecurity threats for, you know, car dealerships is not the same as it is for accountants. And so it's understanding that and then speaking to that directly to people that can actually, you know, write the check or get things moving. It's very critical.
So James asked a question, I want to ask the specific question and then maybe like a general question just for the whole panel. But you know, how do we get educated on this looming Internet of Things threat, the IoT threat? Practically speaking, how are you? Is there somewhere to keep up on those big trends? Is there a book that's rock solid in the area? And then just in general, how are the three of you all staying abreast? I mean, how much time do you spend kind of study versus practicing? You know, do you have an R&D function in your company? Is there somebody who's kind of maybe you're probably the guru who has to go do all the research, but how much level of investment is required to keep up the right level of expertise?
Well, for me, I'm assuming that pointed question was initially for me. I spend a lot of time reading, whether it's various blogs or publications. I also spend, I write a regular column for SmartFile, as was mentioned in my bio. So I've actually written an article that incorporates the IoT threat, and all of my articles are research linked, all that kind of stuff. I spend a good deal of time in my own R&D in the dark web. I actually buy ransomware and other threats just so I can play with them. I have my own personal little sandbox, and I like destroying things, so it's kind of fun. But it's all out there, and I think a lot of IT people don't necessarily know just how deep and effective the ransomware is. I can literally get tech support for any kind of terror campaign I want to run, and including a complete listing of what antiviral scanners the ransomware is known to bypass. I don't have to do the homework. It's been done for me. So in that sense, I mean, there's a lot of different blogs that you can read out there that are all basically cybersecurity based. There's hacking news, latest hacking news, and a few others. But yeah, like I said, I spend a good deal of time in dark web, not just for research on myself, but also for my clients. So that's my basic answer to that.
Okay, and David and Bob, you guys got any insights on just how to keep abreast?
Yeah, this is David. You know, Nick touched on a few of the items. One of the things I could say would be a good general place would be people could check out sans.org, SANS.org. They're a pretty well-known training company in the InfoSec space. They train on everything from forensics to cyber management to, you know, everything, ethical hacking. Excuse me. They also have a project called Securing the Human, which focuses on end users. So earlier in the slide deck, you talked about how to get some good client education. They have a fantastic program around that, paid, of course. So part of the InfoSec certifications that I've got require ongoing training, and so I typically take paid training every year, be it through SANS or some other format that allows me to keep a little bit current on stuff, and it works with people that are in that field that do that every day at a high level, as well as in the weeds. Some fantastic learning going on there. And then a lot of the other vendors will have some stuff that you can easily digest. Sophos has a decent little security blog, and it's usually humor-based. There are some, some other ones that are out there as well. There's a bunch of InfoSec resources if you take a little bit of time to look at it. Will not take you very long to Google around and then all of a sudden have a huge reading stack.
I can certainly agree with that. The SANS organization is a very good organization, and we work with them all the time. Also, people can get the FBI briefings on cybersecurity from InfoGuard. If they're interested in joining that organization, they'll get daily security briefings that way on what are considered national threats.
Excellent, excellent. So great pieces of advice, and I think I'll just kind of, a common theme there is, expertise is not free. You've got to spend time, which is costly, and money and cash to pay for those classes, to invest. But I think really, so there's plenty of resources out there, but I think if you can be an expert to your clients and to your local market and to your vertical you specialize in, if you're continually trying to blog yourself, produce presentations, share your knowledge, you're going to have to dive in. You're going to have to go to the SANS class. You're going to have to be signed up with InfoGuard, getting their updates. You're going to have to be doing research to support your thought leadership and expertise. So, I think that's the key thing, is if you make a mission of being an evangelist and educator to your clients and prospects, you're going to become an expert in the process. I think that's a big takeaway from everything I just heard all of our panelists say. So with that, I think we're out of time. Today we were joined by David Jordan, Nick Espinosa, and Bob Jenner talking about their new book, Easy Prey, and about how they're using security education to build their MSP practice. Guys, thank you guys very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so this was a great way to kick off 2017 with the eFolder Partner Chat Series. We appreciate everybody making the time. Hopefully this was educational and valuable to you all. And have a great year, and look forward to seeing you guys again on another eFolder webinar sometime soon, or out in the field at a show. This is Ted Holsey, VP of Marketing at eFolder, signing off. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care now.